Okay, so I kind of got everything laid out, and I brake parts cleaned everything. I'm gonna just brake parts clean again. The engine cases before putting it on the stand. That's what you'll see in the next video. So yeah, the block came back. He checked the line bar. He said the block was all good and everything, no issues. So yeah, these parts are all laid out just as how they'll basically be in the engine. The camshaft is gonna go right there. And the camshaft has a gear on it. Oh, I just kicked something. So the camshaft has this gear, right? Slap that bad boy on there. We'll check the camshaft backlash to this crankshaft gear. So yeah, these rods are going to go on the crankshaft, and these pistons go on the ends of the rods, the little end, big end. Big end goes on there. And we put the pistons in the jugs, put the jugs on the block. You'll see it all in the next coming videos. I don't want to bore you to death, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Got the right gaskets for the intakes. So yeah, that's it laid out. There's the push rods, right? Those are gonna actuate the rockers that go on here and actuate, open and close the valves. But yeah, you'll see it all as we put it together. I'll try to film step by step, just quick little snippets of what I did, you know. I'm not gonna do lowering it in and stuff. Okay, there she is on the stand. So yeah, that's the gist of it. We'll just start by putting the camshaft bearings in and such. So yeah, basically that's the gist of it. Okay, just went ahead and put all the little studs in, and then these little plastic clips go around there to hold the studs up. Put one bearing in. Basically, you put these little pins in. There's pin, 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 pin. And the bearing shell goes in. Make sure there's no daylight. And the crankshaft has some other bearings on it as well. So yeah, that's where we're at so far. We're just gonna put the case halves together with the crank and cam in there and make sure everything rotates freely without even the connecting rods on them. That's what Jerry recommended, so sounds like a good idea. Because if it's bound up, you wouldn't want to have the case halves glued together and have to break that seal because it'd be harder. So yeah. Okay, I set the other bearings that are not pressed behind a gear. That one's pressed behind a gear. So this one I just set it inside the case half along with this one and pressed it all the way in and then made little scribe marks. You probably can't even see it, but I just scribed a little on the surface. Maybe you can see it on this side. Maybe. Yeah, a little line there. That way it'll be easier to align the dowel pins and rotate these bearings around when the crankshaft is then set in there, which I'm about to do. So I'll just oil that surface and yeah, then we'll set the crank in there, then go onto the camshafts bearings. Okay, so we got the crankshaft in, set in nicely. One camshaft bearing half, another camshaft bearing half, and then the last one. You can see they have a little notch, which the bearing has a little notch as well. You see the little notch there, so yeah. Basically, then I'll set the camshaft in, put the camshaft gear on, torque it. I won't Loctite any of the bolts yet because I'm just checking this because I'm going to check the backlash between this gear and the camshaft gear. And yeah, and then we'll see the backlash. See? Okay, just set the camshaft in there now. And the first thing I checked is just the backlash between this crank gear and the camshaft gear. I have 3 thou. I think the guy had recommended like between 2 and 4. I'll check my manual as well, but I have 3. I'm measuring that with it apart because I don't even know that I'm able to measure it once the other case half's on. Probably won't, but I guess maybe I will be able to because I can put it on the other end between the bolts here as a rough. I don't know. I'll see when I get it together. But yeah, that's the gist of it so far. Now I'm just going to slap the other case half on, torque all the bolts up, and see if everything spins freely. So yeah. Other side note would be is there's a dot right there on the camshaft you can see, and there's 2 little dots on the gear on the crankshaft. You'll see them. There's 2. You obviously want to line those up. And then this dot on the camshaft is 12 o'clock, and then you set the cylinder number 1 lobe or all the way forward lobe there. I think, yeah. So that forward lobe, I was trying to think which cylinder that was, but yeah, the forward lobe is then at 6 o'clock. So 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and yeah, that's the gist of it. Now I'm just going to set this other case half on. Got the cam bearings in, gonna squirt some oil on there. Got this other half of the bearing shell. The other half is in there. So then we'll slap it together, torque it all up, and see if everything rotates freely. Okay, assembled the case. Went ahead and torqued these bolts, the 6 mains. I didn't bother putting the other ones in, but it still rotates very freely. I guess I might as well go all the way around. Never did that. It's hard to do with one hand. So yeah, she rotates all the way around. That's good. And that was the main test here, because it's hard when the connecting rods are in. Obviously, I'll check again when I put it back together the final time. Also measured the crank end play. So I'm going to check the shims I got. The crank end play is kink, 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 kink. So I got shims that go on the side of the bearing there. They're actually right here. So this is the old bearing. So I'll measure these up and see if I got enough. Since I've measured my crank end play now, I can add the required shims and put it together and it should be correct. Just add whatever I need, so yeah. Okay, got it all back together and got her set at 0. I think I had to pull. Yeah. So yeah, about 4. Let's see, maybe 5. Flex back some. So Jerry said, I think like 4 to 6 is what he would recommend. Lucer's on the better side, he said. Manual says 3 to 5. But yeah, so I'm at in the range there, so I think I'm fine with that. Hopefully it just stays like that, because this is just was for testing, right? You want to make sure it's all good before you're siliconing all these joints, and then it's going to be a bear to get apart. Right now the case actually pops apart pretty easily. I pull up on the flange here and then tap in a solid, super solid spot with a rubber mallet. Like all I did was lift up in here and then tap here on this stud, just gently with the rubber mallet. And that gets it apart. I'm trying to think. I think I just, I forget what I think I might have just tapped up in here just a little tiny bit while I'm pulling with my whole weight. So it just comes apart pretty easily, at least my case. But yeah, in my case, anyway, that's just of it. So I won't bore you anymore. So yeah, the next should be is putting all the connecting rods on and then actually assembling the engine for reals. So yeah, that's the gist of it. That's a dial indicator with a magnetic base. The flywheel's magnetic, so that makes it handy, but yeah. So yeah, I just bolted a little piece of angle iron to the front of the engine, because otherwise you can't really measure, you know? You can see it's about 2 thou of backlash, which is in the range of what they require. So, yeah, basically. So yeah, I just got the dial indicator set up, so it's nice and firm on the flywheel, measuring the end play of the crank. That's forward and aft movement, basically. I think I've got to actually go in. So yeah, about 33.5 thou. I just wrote 33, but 33.5. I got 28 thou-ish of shims, plus they're going to have oil on them. So we'll put it together now with the shims we have and see. Okay. You can see here we're about 1 thou. I'll go ahead and push it the right way. Then about 6 thou. So that means obviously we have 5 thou end play. Yeah. And it should be between 3 and 5 thou. So yeah, we're good to go to pull all apart. Just gonna brake clean everything again, put it together with assembly lube, put the connecting rods obviously on the crankshaft, and yeah, should be good to start assembly. This is good to make sure obviously that everything's correct before you start gluing this together. So, well, RTVing, but yeah. So just going ahead and putting all the connecting rods on. To get the connecting rods apart, it's super tight fit and they're dowels. So I just loosen up these bolts, get a rubber mallet wrapped in a clean bag, and then I swing down and tap each bolt to pop them apart easily. We want to make sure that we're lining up the numbers because they're matched sets, you could say. So there's numbers on them, hard to see on the camera, but yeah. So yeah, basically. Okay, got them all torqued up. Clearances all checked on everything. Still spin, that's a good sign. I'm just gonna blow out the cases all again with brake parts cleaner. And yeah, assemble. Okay, after some time, we went ahead and got it all together. So I naturally greased up the camshaft lobes. Those are obviously way inside there now with the break-in grease. And silicone the case halves, silicone under the bolt heads. You can see there's still some, but I think I'll just leave it because it's not really going to be visible. There's going to be tin over a lot of this and everything. So yeah, it's all together, and it does indeed still rotate. Obviously, all these connecting rods are rubbing on everything. But yeah, it still rotates freely, so yeah, we got it all together, and I kind of got frantic and was not filming as much as I should have been, but obviously it was kind of tricky. So yeah, that's the gist of it. Now, ready to move on to the next step, probably measuring the ring end gaps, and then putting the jugs on, measuring the deck heights and such. Okay, last piece of the puzzle, kind of, for the steering system was the quick release steering wheel, because it's going to make it a heck of a lot easier to get in. So just rosebud welded it on each side, pressed it on, and she's good to go. So that's going to make it a heck of a lot easier for getting in, and theft prevention, right? Unless they got an adjustable. Now I just took all the piston rings off, so the high compression, lower compression, and then there's an oil rings that go on there. So this is kind of like the oil slinger rings. Upper piston ring, higher compression, lower compression. So you take them off of here and then push them down about a ½ inch or so. And what we're measuring is the ring end gap, because we don't want, once the rings heat up, they're going to expand, and then if the ends touch, not going to be good, right? So it looks like I wrote down 20 thou for the middle. I called it the middle one there. You can call it what you like. So then, obviously, we have the ring gap there. It's kind of looking, yeah, you can see she's a firm, the 20 is a firm fit. So that's what it happens to be right now. I got to look up in the manual to see what I have to change these to. I may have to file the ring end gap there and make it bigger. That way when it heats up, they don't touch and bind naturally, right? So that's kind of an update. The next thing we'll be doing is taking these, putting them on the actual engine block that's back there, and we check the deck height. So that's the pistons inside there, and there'll be a very small gap between the top of the piston and the top of the cylinder here. That's to set our compression ratio. So yeah, we'll be doing that after I mess around with these. Nothing exciting here. It's a pain getting these off, yeah, anyway. Okay, just kind of put some covers in there to clean it up. I got all these studs that I will now install on all the holes, blue Loctite, and I have this little end cap nut, closed in nut, so that'll make it easier for running onto the threads. So yeah, we'll go ahead and install those and get ready for deck height check. Back again. Getting the studs in, ready to do the deck height check. Deck height check. So I got these tapered piston installers. I guess it's for an LS. That's what it said, but it's 96 millimeters, so you can see it's tapered. So then makes it easy to go ahead and then install the piston. I sure as hell ain't gonna be able to do it on camera because I need 2 hands, but makes it a dream for getting these jugs in without a ring compressor. Basically, the connecting rod pin, little end pin, you'll be able to slide, push the piston all the way through and then put it on the connecting rod, slide the pin through, bolt it down, then check how far the top of this piston is from the top of the jug to set the compression ratio. So that's where we're at right now. Back again. So you can see the pin for the little end. Connecting rod is now will be exposed, so you can slide it on while it's in the jug, which is a dream. Instead of, if you put this cylinder on, then you got to try to get the piston all the way down, so it'd be a nightmare. Got the oil pump plate. I didn't have the oil pump plate for mine because mine was kind of a one-piece pump. I'm kind of rambling now. So mine was a different design. Maybe it's better than the one from China. I don't know. So that's pretty much the gist of what's going on. I just have to clean the other two pistons, and these ones are raring to go. I measured all my gaps on all of them right, and I'm just going to double check that those gaps are fine. I believe they are. I didn't have to open any because they're already loose. So yeah, I just got to clean up the other two jugs and then start checking the compression ratio. Then bolt the heads on, do the rocker geometry and such for the swivel head rockers, and yeah, put the push rod tubes in and call it good. Back again, just went ahead and installed the drain plug. It's kind of a sieve, also a oil pressure relief valve. It's right there. I apologize, I'm filming this underneath. So I put all the studs in the other side. Action. So basically, yeah, the other side went in all smooth by hand. These ones went in fine, but a couple of them are, seize up basically when going in. So I'm going to run a tap, and I'm going to put grease all over the tap to try to capture the particles that may be in there. That's stopping it, and making it tight in the threads. They all came out fine, but obviously something happened. I've wire wheeled these studs, the ones that go in the block as well. So that's where we're at. One thing I would say is, since these holes actually go all the way through the block, right? You can see the crank there. You can see the crankshaft through here. It actually, just as a secondary precaution, put some paper towel down. I can literally, I don't know, you probably can't, oh yeah, you can see my finger. So just so you can make sure the backside's clean, but with a blind hole, you could always just use the tap method and go like a quarter of the tap at a time, back it all the way out. That way the grease doesn't build up on the end and push all the shavings in. But luckily in this case, we can reach most of them. This one I think is a blind one, maybe not. But yeah, we'll just make sure it's clean on the backside after tapping, and yeah, basically put these studs in, then put the jugs on and check the deck height. I know I've been saying that for a while, but yeah, anyway. Okay, got it all clamped up. This plate actually is made for a type 1 to 3 bug engine, so this is the type 4, so the studs are further apart. So you can see there's a little tiny space in between this plate and the piston. So I'll just get a feeler gauge. It's going to be really hard with one hand. Coming from this side, maybe. Anyway, so you can see feeler gauge goes underneath. The 20 thou goes, which is what this is. The 22 thou does not go. Anyway, so that's the gist of it. I'll do this for the other side as well, and I bought a wrist pin puller as well, because these wrist pins are tight. I got to use a little bit of heat on the connecting rod to get them in. Just heat them up a little bit and they slide right in, but yeah. Okay, before final assembly, I just went ahead and started, you can see before cutting, look at that, the fins are full, because there's a flash line. You can see where they at least they ground it flush, but look, it's full, opened. So I went ahead and just put an angle grinder in here, and you can see opened up the fins, because that's going to block airflow that would flow around the fins. So yeah, it should help it cool better. It's definitely going to be better than it was, so yeah. So I went ahead and just pulled all the pistons because I have to put shims underneath. So yeah, basically got them all pulled, brake parts clean, got 2 more to do. Gonna assemble them, clock the piston rings, and we'll be good to go. So with the everything, the pistons and all out and everything, I noticed rotating the engine, there's an ever so slightly portion right there where it got a little stiff, but you can still push it with your pinky right there. So I think what that is, and one thing I did do is on this forward cam, thrust bearing. It's the bearing that had the flanges on it. It was very tight around the cam gear, so Jerry recommended sanding the surfaces because it kind of clips around. And so it was obviously really stiff in there and binding and causing the cam to tip up out of the case. So I had sanded them and it rotated freely around, but there might have been one spot where it was tight, right? So that's my assumption there. I'm going to talk with Jerry and just ask him, hey, there's one little spot. You can push it with your pinky. So anyway, we'll see. And I'll get an update from him and see what he says. Hopefully it's just run it. But yeah. I'm going to go ahead and use a new washer since the old one's pretty bad. For the flywheel, we have our 3 shims in there all cleaned up. There's the main bearing, that needle roller bearing for the input shaft, pilot bearing, in the end of the crank. You can't really see it. It's behind that felt washer. Then there's a felt washer. Then there's a little tiny retainer ring you can see in there. That's holding the felt washer. I think it just keeps all the grease from going out. Now we'll just put this on, torque it up. I'll check the end plate one more time. There's also a seal that went around behind this flywheel. So yeah, it's going to come together nicely. So long as the end plate will still, which it should, match up to what we want for final assembly of the flywheel. Okay, got the flywheel all torqued up. The end plate still checks out good. Went ahead and installed the oil pump and still turns over freely. Want to make sure this, because the oil pump has the bolts on that face and the oil pump goes through, so you want to make sure that doesn't hit. And it freely rotates still, which it does, so yeah, we're in good shape. Okay, just went ahead and put the flywheel on. Next thing will be all the jugs and the heads. Okay, got the lifter all lubed up with brake-in grease. That'll be the first 20 minutes basically. We'll rev the engine to like 2,000 RPM. And there we go, goes all the way. Basically, you might be able to see the, maybe not. My phone ain't gonna fit in there. But basically, right to the right of my pinky, there's the cam lobe, and the lifter will ride on that surface. So the cam is greased up as well with brake-in grease. So yeah, first 20 minutes, 2,000 RPM, then change the oil, then check the valves again and run it. Okay, went ahead and did a assembly, clocked the piston rings, got my cylinders all laid out with the wrist pins set and the stops, C-clips set in the spots. I just cleaned the heads again, opened the valves, sprayed in the ports because there was metal shavings. Just going to clean up these cylinder jug base shims. They go right there at the bottom. That sets our deck height. And yeah, slap on the head, torque it down, do the other side, and then yeah, continue assembly. Okay, got cylinder number 3 jug on. Somebody stamped way too close to the edge there. So you put this one on first because obviously the oil cooler assembly is there. So now put the wrist clip on this side for the wrist pin and then shove the pin through and put the clip on with no space. So that should be a lot of fun. So yeah, and then we'll just do the same on the other side. I'll stop obviously getting updates on that because it's pretty basic, but then this side we'll slap the head on. So yeah, I'll probably film that after I slap it on, but then we'll do the same on the other side. All right, here she is. There's about 8 bolts that hold the heads on. And she is together. We'll continue doing some other stuff in the next video. So yeah, there she is. Just torqued them all down per the manual. That's the sequence. So yeah, basically, that's the gist of it. Okay, back again. Now the engine is upside down. So these are push rod tubes. Push rods ride on the lifters, which the lifters are those larger things we slid in with grease earlier that ride on the cam. They come up here, take them out. This is the exhaust header drop down. See if this copper is actually the right size. Oh, that's good. Kid actually had the right parts this time. Then you tighten the snot out of these studs, and that seals up the exhaust. I'm just clocking these little these exhaust headers because this one, for example, you can see is all dented with a sledgehammer. That way it clears the push rod tube and does not cause any issues. So the push rod tubes just slide in like this. Then where the lifter went in, it'll seal and shove in there. So you can actually remove these and install them with the engine all together. They just come right out as you saw there. So we'll just install all these little headers with the copper seals, and then the chrome zoomies are what bolt onto those. So yeah, the engine's upside down. So yeah, anyway, that's where we're at right now. Okay, went ahead and got all the push rod tubes installed, got the headers dropped in, drop down headers, just because we need to see where they're going to clear basically, because they were dented with a sledgehammer to clearance them. Just have the rocker arms and such, the push rods, check our valve geometry, fan blade, oil cooler, oil filter adapter, and a few other odds and ends we'll get to. And yeah, that's what she looks like. So it's a little bit of a mess still around in the shop here, but we're going to be in a new shop soon, I promise. Got all the headers bolted on, push rod tubes in, engine still upside down. And this is where the buggy's at now, being evicted. So next video you will see it at the new place. So okay, we're back. So obviously we're in the new shop. Might be kind of hard to see. Apologize. I went ahead and put the fan adapter on, and the oil filter housing, and oil filter, and we'll just continue putting stuff back on. Okay, went ahead and torqued up the drop down headers as well. Now we can see down these push rod tubes, might be hard to see, but at the bottom of these tubes is the lifters that we installed earlier, which ride on the camshaft. There's pre-assembly lube where this rides anyway, but I put some oil on it, just why not? And that will sit down there. There's obviously 8 total, and then we will set the rocker arm assembly on. I actually don't think I've done any assembly on video, because obviously one hand it's kind of tricky. Probably won't even be able to do it. So basically, yeah, okay, looks like that actually went pretty good. Now I've just got to get the rockers up in position here. There we are, and adjust offsets and such, and then check the lift geometry, and yeah, we'll be all set. So stay tuned. Okay, apologize for the lighting. I forget where I left off in the last video, but basically what I'm doing is just using this dial indicator to check the valve geometry when it's at half lift. So it's 455 lift on the lobes. So you check the geometry at half. Looks pretty good to me, and what they recommend. So I'm just going to check the other one's geometry. I'm sure they'll be fine since it's all the same stuff. But anyway, then I'll just assemble the other side. Then we should be ready for the little spring clips that hold the push rod tubes in, and the valve covers, and then other assembly to put it back in the buggy. Obviously just some organization that'll have to go on with all this other stuff here, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Alright, went ahead and got all the rocker arms on, push rod tubes in. Right now the distributor is pointing at cylinder number 1, which is this one right here, and it's at top dead center because this little mark is lined up with the split in the case. So we can see, you can probably hear that, maybe not. There's a valve lash there, but it's hard, the hammer's not going to pick it up. But we want about 6 thou, I believe. I'm going to check that after I get all, so I was covering the whole camera. But yeah, you can see the 6 is firm in there, and 8 will not go. So yeah, that's been done for all the valves, so we'll go ahead and put the valve covers on and such, and definitely getting more towards the end. I'm going to put the spark plugs back in before I knock debris down there, but yeah, that's where we're at. It's a really nice day out there. So I went ahead and sprayed the nice looking areas with Bow Shield, and getting ready to put the intakes on. Now before you put the intakes on, get one last good look at it because it's getting all covered up. So this is the cooling tin, right? And you'll be able to see kind of as we put it together, but I'm definitely going to need 2 hands to put that on because it goes in and around the distributor. But yeah, we're just putting the cooling tin on, then intakes, carbs, linkages, and cooling assembly for the fan, rotor, cap, and everything. And yeah, all right. So I kind of set the chrome tin on here, cooling tin, and started looking. You can see somebody else has made other patches in the past with some RTV and sheet metal, but the old plugs were coming down at like this and like this. So you can see we have to pop a couple holes until we can get another piece of tin, then maybe use some 300-mile-an-hour tape. One on the inside, one on the outside, or bond on some sheet metal like they did with RTV for other random holes. But yeah, basically, so yeah, this tin goes on, then the intake tubes go on, which you can see are down there. So yeah. Okay, went ahead and added 2 more holes. An old plug came out that was RTV'd in, so I'll patch that, patch this old holes. Plug wires needs to be a tad bit longer, but for a start run, this might have pulled out completely. So I'll get some longer plug wires. Have to plug these holes too, and bolt those down. But yeah, so it's coming together. So yeah. Okay, I just put the engine mounts on. The magnesium rear is ready to go on. And yeah, that's where it's at now. I gotta get longer plug wires as we discussed, so yep. Okay, we put the fan spacer plate on underneath here and went ahead and torqued those up. So I'm just gonna cover up these holes with some tin foil tape. It's rated for like, I think 280 or 270 in the bug motors. The actual engine supposedly runs at like 280-ish. So I put some on the inside and outside, and if that hot, well, I get some other ones on order. I sprayed everything with Bow Shield as well. Can't remember if I said that already. So it's coming together. Oh, it's missing the main coil wire. So it's going to power our distributor. There we go. I don't feel any click or anything, so I know where to look if it's not sparking. But yeah, this is for the crankcase recirculation. So yeah, it's mostly together. Obviously, we got to put these carb stacks on, but I had to cut the holes. Then I got to plug these holes. I'm going to put a piece on the inside and a little piece on the outside to help it hold together. The tape to plug the holes while other tins are found. I was looking for chrome ones, but couldn't find ones. But anyway, then after the tins are bolted on, I can put these intake tubes on. Anyway, that's the gist of it. Got to find this little plastic cap, too, for the air, to fill the air. Anyway, bye. Okay, got mostly everything back on. I just put some foil tape over the extra holes for now until I can get some new covers. Plug wires are on. We'll have to get some longer ones for the other side. Got the intakes on. Carbs are ready to slap on top of that. Crankcase breather. Found the little cap. Got no oil. But yeah, should be good. Okay, so here's where it's at right now. Ready to be put back in. Still have to hook up the oil pressure line, but we'll route that once it's in the actual buggy. Got the rear subframe off, which is this piece right there. That way the engine can go in easily. And then put the alternator on, run the fuel lines, and then she'll be ready to start. Okay, got the engine installed, then put the subframe piece back in. Lower engine mount here, and just got the fuel to hook up, a mechanical oil pressure line, and finished bleeding the brakes, put the alternator on, and we'll be in business. Okay, so got mostly everything jerry-rigged. A couple little lighting details to hook up. I definitely put these pipes on the wrong side, so I'll have to swap those sides. It's obviously pretty dark in this shop, so I just use the flash. I'll have some final running. That T-junction is just zip tied there. The orange line is the mechanical oil pressure line. But everything's mostly back in. I obviously just ran that along there and have the gauge sitting in there for now. So it's just very much jerry-rigged. Puppy just knocked the tape measure down somehow. I found that spare key in there. I don't know if it's the actual spare for the buggy, but it might be. So yeah, that's where we're at. I'm just going to throw the exhaust headers on, and the next video will be cranking it over and seeing if it starts. And we'll run it for 20 minutes and do the break-in, then let it cool down completely, adjust the valves, and it should be good to go. So, okay, attempt 2. Maybe not. Alright, so we're nearing the final moments. You probably just saw the break-in video, 2000 RPM for like 20 minutes. Ran fine, it popped a little bit, just tiny little, very minimal little pop, pop, like backfiring. If it would have been any worse, I would have just shut it off or actually timed it then. So now I've just went ahead and bled all the brakes. I had been doing other stuff, so I had not even done that yet. Probably have to bleed them some more later and just actually torque the nuts and everything. Set up the seat belts just for now. I still have to loop this back through and such, but it need to be adjusted once I actually sit in there. I just sat in it for the first time in like a month. So yeah, I got all the wheels on, torqued. Just going to go ahead and start it up and adjust the timing, and then take it for its next test, for its first test drive, since the motor's actually been rebuilt. So yeah, that'll be the next clip.